right then. So I'm Sam from Heavy Metal Therapy, and with me I've got Mike from Patch Amnesty. He's going to talk about the project that he runs. So where did it all start?
So Patch Amnesty started around 2 years ago. I decided to make my own battle vest, jacket, whatever you want to call it, and I had a few spare patches left over. So I decided to ask around on socials and on in like a few little groups I was in if anyone else had spare patches for me to sell for charity. And within a few weeks, I had over 300 patches donated. So we set up a little stall in corner of the Primordial Radio's AGM, set up a little stall there, selling them, and it just grew and grew and grew. So from what was meant to be one event is now 2 years in and over £18,000 raise, yeah.
Wow, that is amazing. That's such a big achievement. So how did it develop from kind of where you started? What was kind of, what sorts of things did you use? You obviously saying you got your presence at Primordial. Was there anything else that you used to develop the project? And how long we developing it for?
Yeah, I mean, as I said before, it was only ever going to be one event. It was just going to be a one-off, but it's proved so popular that we decided to keep it going. In terms of developing it, it was, I mean, my knowledge on patches and new bands and stuff back then was pretty shocking. I've sort of threw myself in at deep end, but I've had a lot of people who've reached out to me who I've been able to lean on with their expertise and their knowledge. We sort of just muddled our way through like that, really. Like, I've got a little community of people who, I've got a guy who does some amazing designs for me. I've got people, when patches come in, he'll tell me if they're worth anything or if they're, if they're vintage and just things like that. Yeah, my knowledge, and it was quite evident at the start, really, how bad my knowledge on it was. I was an enthusiast, but definitely didn't have the knowledge, which I did get pulled up on quite a bit. But yeah, 2 years in now, we've had, I wouldn't like to say how many patches we've had donated, but I'd say somewhere between 3,000, 4,000 patches we've had donated from all over the world. And that's just through building our socials up, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, got a website, and just reaching out and kind of like, in a way, just sort of like spamming these groups, just, trying to say what we're doing, because although it's a niche market, there are a lot of groups out there. So it was a case of just being quite persistent in that way. But we've done all right, yeah. We've got it to like quite a decent size, and it's, like I said before, £18,000 from selling patches is pretty crazy. But yeah, we've just sort of socials mainly, and just people reach out all the time, even now, asking if they can help, sending in patches. So it's got to this point really through people, basically.
And you find that most of those people are from the metal community?
Yeah, definitely, yeah. And sometimes it's people, yeah, it's nearly always from the metal community, but it's people sometimes not even reaching out to help. They're just saying, what a great thing it is, and that does help, because you do have days where you think, what am I doing? And you'll get a nice message saying that, or people saying they're struggling, and I try pointing them in the right direction of where to go. And yeah, it's definitely like the metal community. Don't get me wrong, there's good and bad in all communities, and I've found that out in the last 2 years. But yeah, they've been great, and as I say again, yeah, it's people that have got to this point.
So what sort of stories would they share with you, and how did you kind of manage that when they were getting in touch?
Everything really. People just reach out saying, they've been struggling, maybe for a long time, maybe not so long. People saying that used to have shops or used to set up at festivals to, sell patches. Now they've got all stock they want to send in because what I'm doing is great. All sorts like that, really. And these come from all around the world as well. This isn't just people here in UK. This is from all around the world. I've had stuff from Australia, Indonesia, Brazil. I mean, you name it now, I've probably had patches from there. And if I haven't, I've sent them out through our eBay. But even like little notes I get in donations, people just write a little note saying, I think what you're doing is great, and I've used Mind in the past for different reasons. And it's just really nice knowing that it's recognised in that way.
Yeah, and I know what we experience with Heavy Metal Therapy is the sharing the stories is really cathartic and helpful, and you can kind of attune to people's experiences. So what do you think, you got anything out of hearing other people's stories? Because sometimes it can be quite difficult hearing that other people are struggling.
I think so, yeah. I mean, I never sort of told my story until I started this. I was diagnosed with like anxiety and that about maybe 4 or 5 years ago now, and that's sort of, I wanted to learn more about my mental health. And when you talk to people, I think that's the best way of doing it. And I know everyone says, "Oh, you just need to talk," and it's easier said than done. But you do find once you start talking, things become relatable. So when people send me, like, get in touch with me, telling me their story, I can relate because it's not, it happens to me, or it's when things become relatable. I think it's a lot easier to understand. So yeah, when people message me, and I've had some like pretty dark messages as well, and that prompted me to do the like suicide prevention course online, and just little things like that. And that's not for other people in a sense. That's for me, just to make sure I'm prepared, because if I'm putting myself out there as a mental health fundraiser, people do sort of assume that they can reach out to me, and I don't mind that. But I just wanted to be a bit more prepared in that sense. So yeah, we did that.
Yeah, it can be really tricky when people do reach out, because you want kind of the best for them, but you also don't want to be like almost giving advice and providing a different service. You just want to be like a listening ear, I suppose. And like you were saying, giving those relatable stories and sharing your experiences, 'cause they can be really quite powerful, can't they?
Oh, definitely, yeah.
So what kind of reflections did you have on the experience, and what kind of made you draw the project to an end?
So I was actually sort of going to round it off before the pandemic hit. And before then, I was just mainly events. I was doing events, going to little festivals, big festivals. And I was sort of just, I mean, it takes up so much time, which obviously, as I said before, it was only going to ever be one event. So now with how it is, it does take up a lot of time, and I work 6 days a week. I've got a family now. We've just had a second child. And yeah, just everything sort of was pointing in that direction. And then the pandemic hit. We started selling on eBay, which we weren't really doing before, and that just opened up a whole new world in terms of, more vintage patches. And I mean, I think we've raised probably £8,000 just in the last year through eBay, which is crazy. But it all from the outside just looks like, oh, it's great, you're still raising money, you're still making these donations. But I mean, I've been buying patches in, which, yeah, again, sounds great, but I'm bidding against other people who actually want these patches to then sell them back to them, or I'm buying like old bulk stock, which, it's like if I go to, so I'm going to Bloodstock this year, and there'll be at least one, maybe two more patch traders there who've probably been going to Bloodstock for the last 20 years, and then I rock up. Oh, well, come and buy off me because I'm selling for charity, and this is their livelihoods. And although it's nice as a one-off thing, if this became, I'm going to be there every year, it sort of taints it and puts a bit of a sour taste in their mouth. Like I say, it's their livelihoods, and I don't want to be stepping on toes in that sense. And to be honest, I could sell out at Bloodstock, and I can't carry on anyway. We've never done anything that big, so there's every chance.
Yeah. So it sounds like it was a lot of weight on shoulders to grow and expand, but it also sounds like it was going in a different direction that you didn't really want it to go in.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, like I get a lot of messages, people offering the help, which is great, offering to help out, because I do like to have a good moan on socials about like eBay sellers and people giving me grief. But yeah, I've had so many messages for help, and people saying, oh, well, when you finish up, I'm happy to take it over, which is great. But I kind of use the analogy I used with my friend the other week. I'd rather it be like a Live Aid than I would it be like Comic Relief, where Comic Relief comes out every year. People will go onto Twitter and say, oh, all these rich overpaid people telling us to give them the money again. And you get as many people moaning about it as you do who are for it, when really all they do is raising money for charity. And the way I see it is, if I just do it as a Live Aid like this, it's been like a 2-year thing, one-off, just like we raised loads of money and then we got out. I just think that it's sort of fitting, I'm not stepping on toes. I'm not, getting in people's way. I'm not trying to string it out for the sake, because donations will dry up, and they have been drying up for the last year or so compared to what it was when we started. And without donations, I'm just buying in stock, which is like I become any other patch stall, and then it's just not fair on the people who make the livelihood off it, I think. And from the start as well, Bloodstock was always the one where people said, "Are you going to be at Bloodstock? Are you going to be at Bloodstock?" I've had that for 2 years, so we just hounded them. Vicky, who runs it, will tell you, I just non-stop was on the socials hounding them, please have us there. They finally caved in just to shut me up. And to be there with 20,000 people, I mean, our biggest event we've ever done is 2,000. So to be there with 20,000 people, it will, firstly, will raise a lot of money. Secondly, we could easily sell out the patches. I mean, I probably have 2,000 or 3,000 patches in the stock at minute. Yeah. We could easily sell out. And then even if we don't, we've still got one last event after that. So it just, everything sort of seems to nicely round off for me personally.
And what is the last event? Is that that's Primordial, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a Primordial AGM, which again is quite nice because that's where I started. That's where they offered me a little table in corner of a merch tent, and that's where I all started. So I think it'd be nice to go back and they'll see how we are now. Because we were meant to be on tour with them this year as well. They were doing like a charity tour sort of thing, which got cancelled. But I just think it's a really nice way to round it off where it all started. I know them all, the great people who run Primordial, and I know a lot of people who go there, so it'll just be a really nice event. And yeah, I think it all just comes to a nice end that way.
Yeah, and it'll be great to see you and kind of functioning in that space as well. It'll be the first, it'll be the debut of Heavy Metal Therapy because we're going to be at Primordial as well, so that'll be great. So just thinking back, what's your most favourite bit of the project?
My standout bit of the project, we did Stone Dead Festival. God, what year was that? I don't even know what year it is, isn't it? We did Stone Dead Festival, and at the time that was our biggest one. And not only was it like a great festival, like the people there were great, the bands were great, but my wife and son came with me and helped me do the stall. And to be at a music festival with my son and my wife was just great in itself. And the fact, like, I think we raised over £1,000 on that day. It was just an all around like really nice. You know, you didn't feel like you were working. You didn't feel like you were. You were just meeting nice people. I was with my family. It was really good. And I was hoping, you know, we were going to be doing that last year or this year. But then when Bloodstock came along, I just put everything into that. Yeah. But yeah, I'd say Stone Dead's one of the standouts. I love that.
Yeah. Well, let's hope that Bloodstock's still on. What month is Bloodstock? I can't remember.
August.
Oh, fingers crossed. Yeah, that'll still be running. I'm not sure what the capacity is for Bloodstock.
20,000, I believe they've got.
Is it 20,000 this year? Right.
Now, I would have thought they'd sell out because everyone wants to go to a festival, don't they? So.
Yeah, everyone's probably dying for a few extra patches. I'm gonna have to grab a couple myself before you pack up shop.
Oh, definitely, yeah. I've got plenty.
Yeah, get some specialist ones as well. Are there any patches that you've come across that you're gonna keep for yourself, or you've added to your own battle jacket?
Yeah, I'd never liked to sort of slide ones aside when they're coming before I put them on socials. There's been a few that have come in that I've wanted to, and I've actually been like bidding against myself on them on eBay. But quite early on, I became the one thing I have got out of it. I'm quite an enthusiast for patches now. I really like seeing the different patches, and my personal collection is massive, and I've spent an absolute fortune on patches. So yeah, I'll still no doubt have my own sort of stash that I've got, which I've just sort of accumulated throughout. I've been sewing them onto my jacket actually this week, which is just never ending. Once you finish one jacket, you go on to another. But that's another thing I've got out of it actually is the sewing. Like before, I used to get my mum or my wife to sew them onto my jacket for me, and I just wear it. Whereas now, it's sort of like an art form. You sort of like you're placing them and you're moving them around, and then you'll take them off. And I find it really therapeutic just sitting down, putting some music on, opening a beer, and just spending a couple of hours sewing. I absolutely love it, and that's one thing I would recommend to people. You know, patches is quite a niche thing, so it's not everyone's cup of tea. But just sitting with some music on and sewing, and like it's like your own little artwork. And you're always going to have people who tell you that the bands that you've got on your jacket are rubbish, and
Yeah.
and all this, but that's just life. That's what people do, and it matters. It doesn't matter to me at all. Like, it just goes straight off my head now.
Yeah, I think I remember the first discussion we had about battle jackets, and I'm the same. I would think, well, the bands I listen to aren't heavy enough. I can't have a battle jacket. I ain't got enough good bands to put on there. But you definitely encouraged me to grab a battle jacket.
Oh, you will be told, even when you do it, you will be told. There'll be plenty of people who are queuing up to tell you that the bands you've got on there are heavy enough. Or, I mean, some of the things I've had said to me, especially in the early days, I mean, you wouldn't believe. Like, I had a comment on one of my posts saying my son's gonna die in a mosh pit, because I had like Linkin Park patches on and stuff, and that was early on, and that took me back a bit. But now I just realise these people are like just sat in a cave somewhere. Like, that's all they do. If it's not me, it's going to be someone else, and it means nothing. Like, I used to be a bit of an apologist because of the music I listened to, because of the world I've gone into with Patches. Not knowing much as well, I was always a bit of an apologist, like, oh, I listen to this sort of music, so I could get the digs in before they did. But now I say, kind of like it. It's sort of like fishing. Like, I quite like winding people up with it, because I think, why'd you get wound up? Like, I'm wearing it, not you. Like,
Yeah.
So yeah, you will get people telling you whatever you put on there that it's not heavy enough and you're a poser and all this, but it don't matter.
No. Well, I think I need to run with that attitude. How did you find yourself managing when people are making comments like that on socials? Because you're doing such a good thing for charity, spinning patches, making tons of money for a great cause, and then all of a sudden you've got people that are giving death threats. Like, what's worse than that?
Yeah, do you know what? I did struggle at the beginning, because I was trying to build it a lot as well. So I was going into places that I didn't, like these groups, like with any group and any genre of anything, there's these close-knit groups who are very knowledgeable on things. And I was going in there saying, oh, give me your patches, I'm selling them for charity. And a lot of people didn't like it. People had followed my page. And then whenever I posted out, like, because I'd never heard of Bolt Thrower before I started doing this, excuse me. And Bolt Thrower patches and the band, like, their merch just goes for ridiculous money. And I'd never heard of Bolt Thrower, and people were like, how can you be running this if you don't know Bolt Thrower and all that? And I thought, well, I can only learn about them. Like,
yeah,
I can only find out about them and learn. Like, if I don't know, now I do. So I don't know what your problem is. But I did struggle at the beginning. But I just sort of like, I won't say I'm like fish for it now, but sometimes I'll put a few like tongue-in-cheek things out, knowing people will bite, and I just think, yes, got you.
Yeah, there's always going to be some negative comments, but ultimately, getting the patches sold and it's reaching people, and people are still sharing the good stories. I suppose you have to kind of block it out. But it just sounds like such a great cause, and I think it is good that you're kind of closing it while it's still, while you can still reflect on it being this great thing, instead of it's like watching a season, 2 seasons, 3 seasons, something, knowing if they make another season they'll ruin it, and you're best off just kind of ending it there. But you'll always kind of have that legacy then, won't you, as well?
Yeah, and I think like maybe in the future, like, who knows, in 10 years' time, you could probably set this up again. You could bring Patch Amnesty back in 10 years' time, because patches will be 10 years older, they'll be worth a bit more, and you could probably go again 5-10 years' time, and there'll be more people who'll have patches to donate. But I think I've sort of exhausted every avenue in terms of what I can do to get donations in. And once you are getting donations, it's not Patch Amnesty anymore. So I think you never say never. It could be in 10 years' time that we go again. But yeah, I think for now it's just the right way to do it.
Yeah. And you'll be the person to pick it up in 10 years.
Yeah.
The royal we, you. But yeah, so we'll look forward to seeing you anyway, meeting you. I mean, there's so many people that I've spoke to and not met yet, and I imagine everybody's going to be at festivals this year, what they can get to. So yeah, is there any other kind of comments you want to make about the project, or anything you want to plug?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like I say, we're wrapping up, but patch donations are still more than welcome. If you come into Bloodstock, bring your patches along that you don't want, buy some more. We're still taking patch donations. That's the main thing. If you've got any patches, send them in. Find me on the socials, drop me a message, donate, and we'll give you a shout out on our socials. That's the main thing, really, is getting patch donations in still. Keep an eye out for us. Like, we've sold a lot of our own merch design. We've got 4 different patch designs and a t-shirt that's out there. So just keep an eye out, like, for our merch when you're at your own gigs or something. It'd be quite nice, I think, in a year or two's time to go to a gig and see one of my t-shirts there or something, or one of my patches. It'll just be like a nice little reminder now and again that we did a good thing. So the main thing is, if you have any patches and you want to donate them, don't feel like you can't now, because we're wrapping up, because I'll happily accept them and they'll all go on to raise money for charity.
That's fantastic. I need to earmark one of your patches for my battle jacket when I get it through.
Yeah,
my dyed black denim battle jacket. Hopefully it'll look good on there. Is it a white and black design?
I've got a black with like a white skull and a few like red bits coming off. I've got a small circle like white patch. I've got a glow in the dark black and green patch. And then I've got a patch that I had made for the tour I was doing with Primordial that got cancelled. So really, they should be worth a fortune now, because like cancelled tour merch goes for crazy money.
Yeah. And what is it on the website? Is it on your website?
Do you know what? I'm terrible with my website. Like the guy MD Hostings who set it up for me and helps me out, he must be spitting feathers at me, because I'm just so useless with it. I'm just technology. I am absolutely useless. So he set me this nice website up and I barely use it. But there are stuff on there. There's like links to our eBay. So check it out. I don't know how up to date it is, but if not, like I say, I'm on all the socials. You can. My email's patchamnesty@hotmail.com if you wanted to drop me a message or anything. So I'm easily accessible, and if even if it's just you wanted to buy one of my patches, we can do it like that. We've got PayPal. I've just got a card reader for Bloodstock. So yeah, we're pretty like accessible in that way.